Alright guys, last but not least, we're gonna go over the 100 big blind ranges, and let's kick it off with blind battle. As you can see, now we're 100 big blinds deep, and it's very important to understand that now your bluffing range should be even stronger. And you see, we even increase our value part, so we call a 4-bet with hands like King Jack suited, King 10 suited. However, if you play against the nit, do not call with 10-9 suited or Ace 5 suited, or Ace Jack off. Just 3-bet fold. The 3-bet itself, it's very profitable, but then don't waste your money by continuing against the 4-bet. And of course, we defend very wide. If against the min raise, again, guys, this is something you have learned throughout the entire course. We call 100% of our hands here, especially 100 big blinds deep. Versus button, and this is extremely powerful. Probably feels very unnatural to you guys. We're going to be 3-betting with a bunch of suited hands, connected hands, against the 45, 40, 50% button range. You want to do a bunch of 3-betting. They're going to be opening hands like King 8 off, King 7 off, Queen 8 off, 9 5 suited, 10 9 off, and just taking down the pot right away is so profitable for us. And you should be doing way more 3-betting than you're probably doing right now. And yeah, we 3-bet for these kind of hands here. As you can see, even if we get called, we always have very good playability. So either if we 3-bet all suited hands, they're very, very strong in terms of raw equity, like King Jack off or Ace 10 off, or they are suited and connected, have a very, very good playability. And then we mix in some suited kings and suited queen X hands. And we're also going to have the right ratio continuing against the 4-bet. So yeah, definitely a range you want to apply. And even against recreational player that probably will do a lot of mistakes in 3-bet pots, but against recreational players, you know, you have learned it in the Eternal Masterclass, we want to even increase your value range, so like King 10 suited, Ace 9 suited, and then maybe cut out a few of those suited connectors, and you want to be very, very value heavy, so maybe you just 3-bet the top 15, top 20% of your range, even 3-bet hands like Queen 10 suited or King Jack off, because they're going to call you 3-bet with hands like 10 6 suited or 10 5 suited or Jack 9 off, because they want to see a flop and a very calling station type of players. Whereas cutoff, of course, now we're gonna go down with our 3-bet frequency the earlier our opponent is open raising from. And big blind versus hijack, you can see here, this is our range. And if you compare that with 50 big blinds versus hijack, for example, you can see that we also start folding more of the offsuited kings. So here you can really see the benefit of being so deep stack, so that we then already defend way tighter with 100 big blinds. So big blind versus MP, of course, now we start defending tighter. By the way, it's against 2.5x open raise. So now compared to 50, 40, 30 big blinds, where we treat the open raise as a 2.2 or 2.3x open raise, here now we face a 2.5x open raise. And of course, there we also have to defend much tighter. Another gun +2, and you can see still the same kind of hands we're bluff 3-betting with. As a main takeaway, you can 3-bet some suited aces as a bluff, take some of the suited broadways and mix in some suited connectors, and then once in a while you mix some ace queen off, ace check off. This is especially for big blind versus under the gun, MP, and also hijack, something you can keep in mind, and then you're good to go. And then just make sure you're not 3-betting all of them. What you can do is you pick your hands. So you say, like, okay, King 9 suited, I'm always 3-betting against under the gun, MP, as well as King 10 suited, King Jack suited, I'm flatting. And let's say I always 3-bet Queen 10 suited, but I always flat Jack 9 suited. You can, of course, simplify that for yourself, but I want to show you that you also want to take a little bit care of board coverage, so that especially 100 big blinds post flop, also on low boards, on connected boards, on boards like 10 9 8, 7 6 5, you will also have a few nutted hands, and you're not only having two over pairs on this board. Against under the gun, as you can see, fairly tight, which is pretty standard. Small blind versus button. This is usually the 3-betting range from the small blind against button. Very important here, again, make it really dependent on who you're playing against. And if you play against someone that's very tight, do not call king 10 suited, queen 10 suited, jack 10 suited, 10 9 suited, even queen jack suited. Just fold, and even king queen off suited, I would 100% 3-bet fold. Then we have the blue hands with 3-bet folding with. And then the yellow ones we play call fold against squeeze. And then, yeah, pretty much only eights. And yeah, nines is a hand that wants to shove against the squeeze. But here, yeah, if you're not sure, then just fold. And the just call, sorry. The light green ones are the hands we call only against the squeeze if the preflop aggressor has called. Otherwise, we fold. Small blind versus cutoff, same principle here, just the ranges vary a little bit. Same for hijack, as you can see, a bunch of flatting from the small blind, also against MP, as well as against another gun +2, and very, very important. And I see that a lot when, let's say, you call queen jack suited against MP or another gun open race, big blind squeezes, another gun calls, and then most people have make a no-brainer call with queen jack suited. You're out of position. There's already 30 big blinds in the middle. It's going to be extremely difficult for you to realize your equity. You mainly want to overcall the pairs, and you even sometimes want to fold some of these, because this, of course, is made if you play, or is created if you play against good opponents. So good opponents, you won't be able to stack them 100% of the time if you had a sit. Against a weaker opponent, it's completely different. If you have a recreational player involved, always call the pocket pairs. I don't even mind mixing in some calls with ace-9 suited then, or let's say you have queen jack suited. That's something completely different, right? Because they're going to make a ton of mistakes. But you should only add a few of those, let's say, stronger speculative hands. Otherwise, just fold. Against good opponents, because otherwise you're going to check fold too many flops. So you want to be folding a bunch of these smaller pocket pairs, and always call 5s, 6s, and 7s. Yeah, versus under the gun, same principle here. Ranges become stronger, 3-ring ranges become a little tighter, and yeah, we mix in some calls with jacks and 10s, and then if we face a squeeze, regardless of the preflop aggressor folded or not, we always go all in with jacks and 10s here. If we opted to call, small versus under the gun now, yeah, 10s and jacks here. If you go for a call preflop, both options are legit. You can jam, you can call. But the main takeaway, you want to defend sometimes 10-9 suited. It's probably because the way they are supposed to design their preflop squeezing and calling ranges, and 10-9 suited from all hands performs much better than queen jack suited. It performs much better than 10-9 suited. So if you want to call a speculative hand in a squeeze pot, then it's these kind of hands, 10-9 suited, perhaps 9-8 suited. Yeah, these hands perform much better because they have more equity against the premium hands. They have more possibility to make straights, because it's very unlikely that one of our opponents has an 8 or 7 or 6, even jack X, but our opponents are very likely to have either an ace or king or queen. So queen jack makes way less straights than 10-9s. Also way less trips, 2 pairs. More our 10x and 9x outs are more often live than, let's say, queen jack or king 10. So keep that in mind. Button versus hijack, bunch of flatting. You can see here the range we defend, the blue ones. But it's important to understand here. So let's say you didn't 3-bet and you called. So 50% of the time you 3-bet and 50% of the time you call. Now, if you face a squeeze, you always call king 9 suited. Okay? So this half-half is only showing you what to do pre-flop. If you then face a squeeze, you always call king nine suited. Yeah, again, the gray ones we call, and yeah, we call all pairs if the pre-flop aggressor has folded. If he calls, like these hands in terms of the EV, it's very, very marginal. So again, if you call, it's all right, but keep in mind you will have here and there a problem because you're gonna have too many under pairs on post-flop. Set mining against good opponents, again, assume now a squeezer and the pre-flop aggressor both have play a solid strategy, basically close to GTO. That means that they aren't doing big mistakes post-flop, and we're gonna be not able to just set mine and stack them always. So they will be able to make a good laydown. Sometimes also, even if we have the best hands with fours, fives, threes, or deuce, we have to fold. So it's really hard to realize our equity. However, calling is probably profitable, but if you have too many of those hands, you might end up overfolding post-flop. So be very, very careful. Again, those are, especially those that are half marked, you always know it's somewhat close, and you always have an idea, okay, this is somewhat the range I can defend with. All right, so what else do we have? Yeah, some 3-bet folds, we mix in some suited connectors, and you can see here, we're not 3-betting these suited connectors that much. It's something so many players do wrong. And then they wonder why their win rate deteriorates. Probably because they play too often with weak holdings in 3-bet pots, right? Especially a hand like Jack 8 suited, and being that deep, it also benefits so much playing against hands like 9-8 suited, 10-8 suited, 8-7 suited, 9-7, all these hands your opponent will have. However, you will make your opponent fold king jack off, queen jack off, king 10 off. And then even if your opponent has king queen, you still have decent equity, right? But if you always 3-bet 7-6 suited, 8-7 suited, you're never going to be ahead against any hands from your opponent's range. Yes, the hand looks beautiful and it has a good playability, but still, your opponent knows that you will also have bluffs, right? So it's not 2010 anymore, where basically people were only 3-betting premium hands, and then that was totally enough to 3-bet suited connectors, c-bet and second barrel, and people always thought you have an overpair. No, these days are gone. People defend more against 3-bets, but again, take a look at what is the right defending frequency for hijack here against button. You will also soon have 100 big blinds open raising range that really only cover 100 big blinds, and then you will see what is the right frequency hijack is supposed to defend. If it's, let's say, 50% and his 4 to 3-bet is 60%, then it doesn't matter. Then you can 3-bet 8-7 suited and 9-8 suited all day long. Okay, guys, that's very, very important here. Let's take a look at button versus cutoff. Just want to make sure, yeah, this is versus cutoff. We defend a few more of these queen 10 off, jack 10 off type of hands, 3-betting, calling. So a lot of mixing. Always try to find your takeaways here. And yeah, here, since we're very deep, we call relatively wide. And these are additionally hands we call if the pre-flop aggressor has folded. But keep in mind, yeah, especially those bottom hands here. I mean, it's hard to detect the bottom range, but as you know, they're somewhat close and we just call them to protect our range. However, against the right strategy our opponent is supposed to play, these hands are profitable defense. Don't get me wrong. It's not about just balancing your range and then for the sake of balancing, we mix in minus EV calls. No. But of course, if your opponent is under bluffing, you should be folding king 9 suited. You should be folding ace 3 suited. Yeah, and 10s and jam 9s, which we sometimes call here, we then jam against the squeeze, regardless if whether the pre-flop aggressor has folded or not. Same principles for button versus MP here. Versus UTG +2. Of course, our 3-bet range gets smaller and smaller. You see how to react against squeezes here. Keep in mind, it always treats squeezes from late positions. Mainly button or small blind. So button versus under the gun. Yeah, I mean, we still call all pairs. We still defend very wide on the button here. It's just the position advantage makes up so much for a an equity disadvantage we might have pre-flop with a certain hands that allows us to defend still relatively wide. Cutoff versus hijack. I mean, for all other positions, you will see that it follows the same pattern over and over again. It just gets tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter. There is really no rocket science behind it. Let me see if there's something really remarkable that we have to talk about, or something outstanding, some outliers, or yeah. But as I also told you guys in Discord, if there's still something unclear, just ask it in the Discord channel. If you find a mistake or something, just send me a private message in Discord. But I will go over it once again, and to make sure. You also sometimes will find notes here. So for example here, if there's something that where I was not able to explain that with the help of the description. So deuces to fours, we only call it 20%, 5% of the time, but facing a squeeze, we always call. So just that you guys don't misunderstand it as, well, we call 25% pre-flop and then we only defend 25% as a squeeze, okay? So you have some notes here, but I also, with this video, I try to explain that as much as possible for you. And if there's still tons of questions left, I might do another video here. If there's something like this, because of course it happens that we call only 50%, or we'd say we 3-bet and call 50% pre-flop, and then we only call 50% against the squeeze, I wrote it down here. So here, king queen suited, MP versus under the gun is a hand that is very, very marginal, thus you only want to defend it 50% of the time. Same for 7 and 8s here. So you will find more notes in the range viewer here. All right, guys. So new ranges, new weapons for you. Make sure to still try to play as exploitative as possible. And if you have questions left, make sure to really watch the video, take down notes, and yeah, then ask your questions. And I hope you guys will be able to implement that. Don't worry, guys. You don't need to follow it 100%. You will do mistakes, and that's totally okay. Believe me, most people have totally fucked up ranges. They don't know what to do. I hope this will give you a lot of clarification, and it will also give you some inspiration on how to do other spots, because it's not possible to cover all possible spots, all possible scenarios with all different stack sizes. So you need to be able to abstract that knowledge and also apply that on other spots. All right. See you guys in Discord. See you guys on the tables, and good luck.